Here we go. Anne Frank, The Diary of a Young Girl. Wednesday, July 8th, 1942. Dear Kitty, years seem to have passed between Sunday and now. So much has happened. It is just as if the whole world had turned upside down. But I am alive, Kitty, and that is the main thing, Daddy says. Yes, I'm still alive indeed, but I don't ask where or how. You wouldn't understand a word, so I will begin by telling you what happened on Sunday afternoon. At 3 o'clock, Harry had just gone, but was coming back later. Someone rang the front door. I was laying lazily reading a book on the veranda in the sunshine, so I didn't hear it. A bit later, Margot appeared at the kitchen door looking very excited. The SS have sent a call-up notice for Daddy, she whispered. The SS has sent up a call for Daddy, she whispered. Mummy has gone to see Mr. Van Daan already. Mr. Van Daan is a friend that works with Daddy in the business. It was a great shock to me. A call-up, everyone knows what that means. I picture concentration camps and lonely cells. Should we allow him to be doomed to this? Of course he won't go, declared Margaret. While we waited together, Mummy has gone to the Van Daans to discuss whether we should move into our hiding place tomorrow. The Van Daans are going with us, so we shall be 7 in all. We couldn't talk anymore, thinking about Daddy, who, little knowing what's going on, was visiting some old people in the Jude's Infidel, waiting for Mummy. The heat and the suspense all made us very overawed and silent. Suddenly, the bell rang again. That's Harry, I said. Don't open the door, Margot held me back. But it was not necessary, as we heard Mummy and Mr. Van Daan downstairs talking to Harry, and then came in and closed the door behind them. Each time the bell went, Margot or I had to creep softly down to see if it was Daddy, not opening the door to anyone else. Margot and I were sent out of the room. Van Daan wanted to talk to Mummy alone. When we were alone together in our bedroom, Margot told me that the call-up was not for Daddy, but for her. I was more frightened than ever and began to cry. Margot's 16. Wouldn't they really take girls of that age away alone? But thank goodness she won't go. Mummy said so herself. That must be what Daddy meant when he talked about us going into hiding. Into hiding? Where would we go? In a town or the country? In a house or a cottage? When? How? Where? These were questions I was not allowed to ask, but I couldn't get them out of my mind. Margot and I began to pack up some of our most vital belongings into a school satchel. The first thing I put in was this diary. Then hair curlers, handkerchiefs, school books, a comb, old letters. I put in the craziest things with the idea that we were going into hiding. But I'm not sorry. Memories mean more to me than dresses. At 5 o'clock, Daddy finally arrived, and we phoned Mr. Kufius to ask if he could come around in the evening. Van Daan went to fetch up Meat, has been in the business with Daddy since 1933 and has become a close friend. Likewise, her brand new husband, Hank. Mike came and took some shoes, dresses, coats, underwear, stockings away in her bag, promising to return in that evening. Then silence fell on the house. Not one of us felt like eating anything. It was still hot and everything was very strange. We let our large upstairs room to a certain Mr. Goudsmit, a divorced man in his 30s who appeared to have nothing to do on this particular evening. We simply could not get rid of him without being rude. He hung about until 10 o'clock. At 11 o'clock, Mike and Hank Van Stanton arrived. Once again, shoes, stocking, books, and underclothes disappeared into Mike's bag and Hank's deep pockets. And at 11:30, they too disappeared. I was dog tired, and although I knew that it would be my last night in my own bed, I fell asleep immediately and didn't wake up until Mummy called me at 5:30 in the next morning. Luckily, it was not so hot as Sunday. Warm rain fell steadily all day. We put on heaps of clothes as we were going to the North Pole. The sole reason was to take clothes with us. No Jew in our situation would have dreamed of going out with a suitcase full of clothing. I had on 2 vests, 3 pairs of pants, a dress, on top of that, a skirt, a jacket, a summer coat, 2 pairs of stockings, lace-up shoes, woolly cap, a scarf, and still more. I was nearly stifled before we started, but no one inquired about that. Margot filled her satchel with school books, fetched her bicycle, and rode off behind Mike into the unknown as far as I was concerned. You see, I still don't know where our secret hiding place was to be. At 7:30, the door closed behind us. Morgie, my little cat, was the only creature to whom I said farewell. She would have a good home with the neighbors. This was all written in a letter and addressed to Mr. Goodschmidt. There was 1 pound of meat in the kitchen for the cat. Breakfast things lying on the table, stripped beds, all giving the impression that we had left helter-skelter. But we didn't care about impressions. We only wanted to get away, only escape and arrive safely. Nothing else. Continue tomorrow. Yours, Anne. Thursday, July 9th, 1942. There's a picture. Dear Kitty, so we walked in the pouring rain, Daddy, Mummy, and I, each with school satchel and shopping bags filled to the brim, with all kinds of things thrown together. And anyhow, we got sympathetic looks from people on their way to work. You could see by their faces how sorry they were that they couldn't offer us a lift, or the gaudy yellow star spoke for itself. Only when we were on the road did Mummy and Daddy begin to tell me bits and pieces about the plan. For months, as many of our goods and casuals and necessities of life as possible had been sent away, and they were sufficiently ready for us to have gone into hiding in our own accord on July 16th. The plan had to be speeded up 10 days because of the call-up, so our quarters would not be so well organized, but we had to make the best of it. The hiding place itself would be in the building where Daddy has his office. It will be hard for outsiders to understand, but I shall explain that later on. Daddy didn't have many people working for him. Mr. Kraler and Kufius, Mike and Eli Bosson, a 23-year-old typist who all knew of our arrival. Mr. Bosson, Ellie's father, and 2 boys worked in the warehouse. They had not been told. I will describe the building. There's a large warehouse on the ground floor, which is used as a store. The front door to the house is next to the warehouse door. And the side of the front door is a second doorway, which leads to staircase A. There's another door at the top of the stairs with frosted glass window in it, which has office written in black letters across it. That is a large main office, very big, very light, and very full. Eli, Mike, and Mr. Kufius work there in the daytime. A small dark room containing the safe, a wardrobe, and a large cupboard leads to a small, somewhat dark second office. Mr. Kraler and Mr. Van Daan used to sit here. Now it's only Mr. Kraler. One can reach Mr. Kraler's office from the passage, but only via a glass door, which can be opened from the inside, but not easily from the outside. For Mr. Kraler's office, a long passage goes past the coal store, up 4 steps, and leads into the showroom in the whole building, the private office. Dark, dignified, furniture, linoleum, carpets on the floor, radio, smart lamp, everything first class. Next door is a roomy kitchen with hot water faucet and a gas stove. Next door, a wash closet, which is a bathroom. That is the first floor.